Imagine this, a quiet, moonlit night, the sound of boots crunching on gravel, and the crackle of comes through the airwaves. You've been in countless missions before, but tonight something feels off. Your heart is beating faster than usual. Not because of the tension, it's something else. You just have a feeling that something's about to change. That was exactly the moment in 2004 when the British SAS, known for their legendary precision and cold composure, found themselves staring down the impossible, a full-scale ambush in the heart of Iraq. Set up by some of the most ruthless insurgents in the region, they had been tracking a high-value target, a former Saddam Hussein loyalist turned warlord through the rugged terrain, hoping to catch him off guard. They were deep behind enemy lines, just a few clicks from the notorious Sunni Triangle, the kind of place where it's not the if but the when the enemy attacks and then it happens. A blinding flash of light, followed by an explosion that rattles the ground beneath them. The ambush had been planned to perfection. The insurgents had dug in, and they had everything from RPGs to improvised explosive devices, AEDs, not to mention snipers poised to take down any member of the SAS who dared move. The SAS, in their own quiet and methodical way, replied with deadly efficiency. But here's the twist: what followed wasn't just a firefight. No, it wasn't that easy. The insurgents had planned their own counter to the SAS's world-class tactics. They turned the tables by using a human shield, capturing a young Iraqi boy and dragging him into the line of fire. The horror wasn't just in the violence. It was in the moral dilemma the SAS found themselves facing. Shoot, and they risk killing the child. Hesitate, and they lose the advantage. But what happens next? Well, that's where the story takes a dark turn. The SAS, in their own way, made a call. A split-second decision, and the firefight raged on. But here's the real kicker. In the heat of the battle, an SAS sniper made a single shot. One clean, calculated shot. A shot that not only neutralized the insurgent, but also freed the boy. And the whole thing was over in less than 5 minutes. But that's the thing about battlefield stories like this. They're never as clean as Hollywood would like you to think. This was real. This was ugly. Now, let's flip the page to something that'll really get your blood pumping. The year is 1942, it's World War II, and the Allies are still reeling from the shock of Pearl Harbor. You're an American Navy sailor, just a regular guy from Kansas who signed up to do your part for the country. What you don't know is that you're about to participate in one of the most daring operations ever. The Battle of Midway. It's 6 a.m. and the horizon is just beginning to lighten. You're on the deck of an aircraft carrier, trying to shake off the exhaustion from last night's training drills. You've been up for hours, but today isn't about sleep. Today, you and your squadron are about to face off against the Japanese fleet. You know they're out there, somewhere, but you don't know where. And that's when it happens. The radar picks up a blip. No, wait, it's more than one. It's the entire Japanese fleet coming in hot and fast. They've made their move, but here's the shocker. The American fleet, which had lost most of its aircraft during the first waves of the attack, was nearly wiped out. The Japanese had the upper hand, or so they thought. At the exact moment when the battle seemed like a lost cause, an American pilot, a man with nerves of steel and more courage than any 22-year-old should possess, decided to go all in. His plane outnumbered, outgunned charged straight at the enemy, guns blazing. The Japanese were taken off guard. Their whole strategy was built around overwhelming force. They didn't count on a lone pilot flying straight into the firestorm. And that's when the tide began to turn. The courage of that one man, in the face of certain death, inspired his fellow pilots to take risks they wouldn't have taken otherwise. The attack became a full-scale assault, and in the end, the Japanese lost 4 aircraft carriers. 4, it was a win that, on paper, should never have happened. But that's how war works, right? It's not just about the numbers. It's about the people. And sometimes it's the underdog who wins. Now, let's dial it back. Way back. The year is 1916, and World War I is in full swing. The Battle of Verdun. Picture it, the trenches, mud, blood, the scent of gunpowder in the air. The French and Germans are locked in a brutal death match, and no one knows when or if it will end. In the middle of the chaos, a single unit of French soldiers, outnumbered, undersupplied, and undertrained, are holding their ground against a German assault that would break lesser men. But here's the insane part. They didn't break. They didn't run. Instead, they dug in, their feet sinking into the mud, their rifles raised, their hearts beating with the kind of fury that only comes when you're fighting for your survival. And then, with a command to charge, they sprinted at the enemy with bayonets fixed. A desperate suicidal charge. And as the French soldiers collided with the Germans, something incredible happened. They won. They broke the German line. Now, you'd think that would be the end of the story, right? But no, it gets better. After the battle was over, they realized that only a handful of the original soldiers had survived. Those who lived to tell the tale became legends. The French called them the Immortals. They were not just soldiers. They were symbols of unyielding resistance in the face of an enemy that seemed unbeatable. And the Germans? They were forced to rethink everything they thought they knew about fighting wars in the trenches. Let's keep it rolling. Fast forward to the Vietnam War, 1967. You're an American helicopter pilot, and the jungle's about to swallow you whole. The enemy's closing in from all sides, and you're out of options. But you've got one thing going for you, your helicopter. It's not much, but it's fast, and it's tough. And it's got the firepower to get you out of a jam dot in a move that would make every other pilot cringe. You make a daring decision. You fly straight into the heart of the battle, banking hard and low, dodging tracer rounds like a maniac. You drop down into the clearing, your chopper's rotors slicing the air like a buzzsaw, and you pick up your men. As you lift off, bullets whiz by your window. It's a miracle no one's hit, but you don't care. You're just focused on getting out of there alive, and then, just when you think you're clear, the worst happens. One of your engines cuts out. You're dead in the air. You've got no choice but to pull a miracle out of thin air. So, you do what any self-respecting chopper pilot would do, make an emergency landing right in the middle of enemy territory. It's a gamble. A big one. You're surrounded and the enemy's closing in fast. But somehow, you and your crew manage to get out and make it back to base, alive. The story of that day would go on to inspire a new generation of pilots. And the enemy? They learned the hard way that you can't keep an American soldier down. Not that easily. Now, here's the mic drop moment. You've heard of World War II, you've heard of Vietnam, you've heard of all the big battles, right? But let me hit you with this. The most surprising part about these stories is not that they happened. It's that we tend to forget the true price of war. We forget the bravery, the impossible odds, the human cost. War isn't just about the battles. It's about the people who dare to step into the unknown and fight, against all odds, with a resolve that makes the rest of us look like amateurs. The next time you hear someone talk about strategy, victory, or defeat, remember this: it's the men and women who make it happen. Not the generals, not the equipment, just the people. And the next time you think the odds are stacked against you, just remember the impossible has already happened. It's happening right now, and you're part of that story whether you believe it or not.